How to build a reward and recognition program as you launch and scale your nonprofit or business dream. This is for that entrepreneurial leader right now who wants to use crowdfunding to launch or scale their nonprofit or business dream, and you want to implement a rewards and recognition program so that you can continually generate funds through your crowdfunding efforts. How to build a culture of rewards and recognition for your business or nonprofit. For this to become part of your organization, and if you're a startup, make it a part of what you build into the organization as you get started. Build that culture of rewards and recognition from day one. Maybe you just got a small handful of people. Maybe it's just yourself. Those people that are helping you out, start making them feel valued. Recognize and reward them in valid ways as you're getting started. If you're a leader or manager of people, you know what people are doing, at least most of them, and you understand the sacrifice that they're making for you, for the organization, for your business, for your nonprofit. Trying to get volunteers out there. You remember what it was like when you had to give up your time? Remember how busy, you know how busy your life is now? And you got people that are willing to give up their personal time to come help you out, come volunteer. Maybe you know what it's like, we're in a recession, going into a recession. Gas prices are high. Food prices are high. Hell, everything's high. You know that donation that comes in on a consistent basis from that donor that's been a regular donor for a while now. What have you done to recognize them? How have you tried to reward them for their sacrifice, their commitment? As you start out, think about how you're going to do that. You can start out by acknowledging them with handshakes, fist bumps, high fives, words of affirmation, words of encouragement, acknowledging them. Maybe it's a customer that comes in, you acknowledge them when they enter in your business. Maybe it's someone that is expressing interest and asks you some question about that new business startup. Maybe it's someone that's asking how your nonprofit is going. Well, tell them thank you. Just start. Simple. Start easy. When you're starting out, you got a lot of different things you got to do. You're thinking about, if you're a nonprofit, let's just think, you're a nonprofit business, you're thinking about the money. Let's just be honest right now. Being very honest. And very honest is, hey, as a nonprofit leader, you're thinking about, how am I going to reach this budget and make it to the end of the year? How am I going to get the money I need to fund this next project or program? And I know you're thinking about that. But as you think about that, think about how are you going to acknowledge and reward those people that are going to be making that donation, those people that are going to volunteer and support. You're trying to get that business off the ground. You're going to people and talking to them about it. You're trying to get investors and you got some people showing interest, or you got some people that are making that investment right now. Well, acknowledge them, reward them. A simple thank you, gratitude goes a long ways. You can also work on creating a regular recognition program where you reward somebody. Maybe it's a few people, maybe it's just one person, but you're trying to do something to recognize them for an impact that they're making, or going above and beyond, or exhibiting your cultural values, or donating on a consistent basis. Maybe they're your biggest investor. Whatever that program is, create a time frame for it. Yeah, a lot of business, a lot of organizations, they have their monthly award programs. Maybe it's a quarterly program. Maybe it's something you do annually or biannually. Whatever you think it works out for your business or your nonprofit right now. If you're that startup and you're getting started, maybe right now you just want to do it on a quarterly basis or biannually. If you're starting out, go ahead and think about the end of the year and what is something you want to do to acknowledge, to recognize, to reward those people who have either volunteered consistently or those people that have donated or supported consistently. However you want to do it, you begin to build that into it right now. Maybe you've been in it a long time, and right now you realize that reward and recognition program you have is kind of fizzled out. Maybe the people aren't excited about it. Maybe you're not getting the response that you like. Maybe they're not showing up for the event that you're hosting for. Maybe people aren't nominating people. It's time you breathe new life into it. How can you make it memorable and meaningful? You got to think about your target audience when you do that. You got to be thinking about those people that you're going to acknowledge and recognize. Those people are the ones that when you build that program, when you want to rejuvenate that program, think about what speaks to them. When you think about that, rewards and recognition program, you got to be thinking about how can you make it a peer-to-peer culture. This is where you have to ingrain that cultural habit of recognition. It has to take root with you as the leader and as part of the organization. It has to become a normal practice. And the reality is you can borrow great ideas from all kinds of places. If you live in the South, you ever stopped at Chick-fil-A? Everybody knows, what do they always say? It's my pleasure. They do that for their customer, right? They train all their people to say it. It's like a natural habit. You expect them to say it when you buy something. Well, that wasn't true. It's Kathy's idea. He borrowed that idea from the Ritz-Carlton and made it a part of his culture. Made it a part of the culture of the organization. So you want to create a habit, and you want it to happen peer-to-peer and across the organization, across, maybe it's peer-to-peer with all of your volunteers. You've got to make that part of the normal practice and experience anytime they come to volunteer and participate, anytime they walk in the door, anytime they volunteer for an activity or a project, anytime you interact with that new customer. You are practicing that on a consistent basis with them. You want to get everyone to the point where they are acknowledging and recognizing each other. It can be seen physically with physical signs of recognition, whether it's that high five, that fist bump, that handshake, whatever it is. Maybe it's heard through certain words, verbal recognition that you use. Just like I used the example of Chick-fil-A. It's my pleasure. What would be that phrase or that word that you would want to use to be part of that recognition? It also can be done through public communication tools. Make it part of your social media campaigns. Make it part of your virtual programs or projects. Make it part of any recorded material that you produce and put out there. When you're doing those public events and you've got large groups, you got people showing up, well, then make it part of that as well. In those times, in those events, when you've got that chance and you're in front of those people, make sure you've planned out. How are you going to recognize, how are you going to reward those people that you know have made an impact, who have contributed, who have been great supporters of you, helped you get started, and been consistent with that. Make it part of that communication as well. Now, when you think about rewards and recognition programs, first of all, I've talked about building it into your culture. And as you build it into your culture, it needs to be habits that you create within your culture. But when you think about doing it on a consistent basis, you think about those monthly, quarterly, biannual, annually programs, however you decide to design it. That is more of a structured program, right? And you have to deliberately design that program. In that program, figure out how you want to reward and recognize others. You're a nonprofit. How do you want to recognize your volunteers and reward them? Is there going to be a reward? Maybe it's just recognition. You're a business startup. You got new employees helping you get started. How are you going to reward and recognize them? Is there going to be compensation involved? Is there going to be gift cards, other things? What is it? What are you going to do? Maybe you're going to buy them something of money. Give them something of monetary value. But when you create that structured program, normally it's something that you do on a larger scale, and it is also limited by a certain time frame. It's also limited at times by the number of people. Maybe it's just one person you're going to be recognizing. Maybe it's going to be multiple people. You need to decide how you're going to do that and how do you plan to recognize and reward them. A lot of times this is going to be visible. It's going to be in public. It should be, in my opinion, ceremonial at least, because it carries more weight. It has more value. It does limit people's chances of winning, so that means it is of higher value to those who win. But it can also become discouraging for those who maybe get passed over for some reason. And the reality is, a lot of times, sometimes that happens. We're not perfect humans, so it happens. But try your best to make it a fair, consistent program. How create your criteria around it, figure out what you're going to give as part of that recognition and reward to those individuals. Keep track of who won. Next time around, evaluate. But you got to create that criteria. You got to make it consistent. At the end of the day, make it where it shows great appreciation and expresses gratitude to those people who won. Second is creating unstructured methods. These are not really programs. Unstructured methods of recognition and rewards. These don't have to have predetermined time frames or criteria that really has to be managed or monitored. It's more of a natural approach to it. It can be seen as more authentic, and it can be much more timelier because it can be done in the moment, done when you see it, all right, or hear about it. Okay, it doesn't necessarily have boundaries, and it can be done by anyone. It is also helps build camaraderie among your team, volunteers, donors, employees, and it helps build that teamness, that connection. You can put money behind it if you want to. Maybe it's at times you just give them out simple gift cards, or maybe it's something that I don't know. Could be T-shirts or something practical that they could use that has your logo or an organization or pertaining to that event or whatever it is that you're hosting or something of that nature. And when you do that, that also can be very timely as well, because it can be done right there in the moment, in the present. And, people get that recognition when it's seen and experienced. And really and truly, when people receive that, sometimes it might be simple as, hey, it's in a group chat message or a group text, and they did something really well. And you either saw it or you heard about it and you acknowledge them to the whole group. All virtual, okay? But when it comes to that unstructured program, it's something that you as a leader have to be the one to drive this. When you talk about leading by example and you want to create a culture of rewards and recognition, you have to be the prime example of showing appreciation to those around you. And this along with you consistently doing this will build it into your culture and create a positive environment for others to be involved and catch on. It's more caught than taught. And I did just mention the fact that it could be done verbally in group text or group chats or group emails or something like that. Or it can be done. I did just say it could be done in writing, in a group text or in group chat. And when we talk about unstructured rewards and recognition, it is something that can be done verbally. It is something that can be done in writing, okay? And you can develop a program that supports both. And the reality is, maybe it's something that when you think about it on a structured platform, if you're building that structured recognition program with the organization, maybe you create a certain platform for that to happen from. That could be easily accessible via whatever software or programs you use, or maybe through your website, or maybe it's maybe it's an app you can use. Maybe there's probably apps out there about that. But if you create that program, create it where it supports both the verbal and the written, okay? And when you create that structured reward recognition program, you should include both in a structured ceremony. So it should have something in writing. It should be something verbally. And you need to build this into your budget. When you're thinking about your annual budget every year, whether you're a nonprofit or a business starting out, think about what are you going to put in your budget for your rewards and recognition program. How much are you going to be willing to spend? What kind of gifts are you going to be willing to give away? and build it in that budget as well. When it's unstructured, when you're using that unstructured recognition and rewards, one of the things you've got to really keep in mind is think about the person that you're trying to acknowledge. What do they prefer? Some people will love it to be acknowledged in front of a large audience or in front of a large group of their team or people around them, and they would be elated and happy and joyful about it.
Then you got those others.
They could care less about being in front of a group.
And they would appreciate just a handwritten thank you note.
Or a simple one-on-one recognition. And maybe that's what motivates them more. So when you're recognizing and rewarding people in unstructured ways, think about what do they prefer. So when you think about when to reward and recognize people, first one you need to start thinking about is, okay, how about
the performance-based? You want to reward and recognize those high performers,
those high potentials,
those high-performing donors maybe, those high-performing volunteers that
volunteer the most, or those high-performing employees. These go along, have to relate to your long-term
goals.
And look at how are they doing towards them. How are they being persistent and following through? What are they doing to go above and beyond? How effective are they being at
helping you reach those goals?
If they're playing a major contribution in that, then you need to be thinking about, well, what are you going to do for those performance-based? What are you going to do for those performance-based rewards and recognition? And it always has to go back to
your goals and objective as an organization.
So even then, when you think about it, all right, we're coming to the end of 2022. You're going into 2023. At the end of 2022, who is that high performer for you? Who helped you meet the majority of the goals, or who contributed the most towards meeting the goals? Who on your team was most consistent in meeting all their goals? How are you going to reward and recognize them? Next, you can think about effort-based. This is the day-to-day. When you recognize and see them contributing on a high level on a daily basis. Maybe it's they're consistently working on important tasks and they're maybe helping others, or they're just continue to go above and beyond in very noticeable ways. Those effort-based ones
are great ones for that unstructured rewards and recognition.
And honestly, you think about it, if you're really disciplined,
you could track that as well.
Simply put it in an Excel file. Put down what you notice, or take notes. I don't know. Whatever you do. Monitor somehow. Put it out there. Another one is milestone based. Think about those milestones. These are important things that are related to them. Could be their birthday, could be their work volunteer donor anniversary, could be, those are the biggest ones I think about. Birthday and any kind of anniversary related to their connection with your organization. Or maybe they're part of your team, your organization, and hey, maybe it's not their birthday, maybe they just had a child.
Maybe they had a kid graduate from college.
Hey, just think about it. If they had that happen, they just got a raise, right? You can celebrate that with them. But you can celebrate those things and acknowledge them in tangible ways. Sometimes it's just
recognition. Honestly, I think you ought to have a birthday party for them. Yeah, have a cake for them. Have a cupcake for them. I don't care what it is. Do something to acknowledge their birthday. Give them a gift card. Hey, it's that anniversary, 5, 10 years, 15 years. Hey, think about that. What are you going to do for that? I know maybe a lot of you listeners are startups. So what are you going to do after that first year? Who's been with you the longest during that first? Who stayed with you, stuck with you during that first year? How are you going to celebrate it? Think about those milestones. Your team's birthday, think about that. I got a great idea for milestones and birthdays. Those donors, those volunteers, get their birthdays. Remember their birthdays. Send them something on their birthday. Or here's another one. Try this next time. Send it outside their birthday and send them a birthday card. And just let them know you're thinking about them. You know it's not their birthday. But be creative. Who knows? Might be helpful. Finally, value-based. So when you tie it to your organization, finally it's value-based. So when you tie it to your organizational culture, this is when Finally, there's value-based rewards and recognition. And this is all tied to your organizational culture and core values. And hopefully for you startups out there that are getting started, think about starting with some core values in mind, or what is your culture going to be, all right? This values recognition really and truly has the most impact on people, because really and truly when they see that their values, value-based rewards and recognition has the greatest impact on people, because they see how their personal values line up with yours. And it's more motivating for them because they feel more connected, because they feel like they are living out their values with you and you're acknowledging them for it. When they do that, you need to be explaining how you've seen them live out those values and what impact is it making on your organization because they live out those values. Because when your values and their values are in line, you're going to have a higher commitment, more dedication, and they're going to be more excited about accomplishing the goals and objectives because they know those goals and objectives are in line with their values as well. And this will increase their meaning into your work and their part in that work with you. For all this to work, you have to create a plan, and you need to build or buy a system that will help you make for all this to work. You need to create a plan and build or buy a system that will help make it a part of your organizational culture.
I'm Miles Threaton. I really appreciate you joining me in this episode. I covered several things about a rewards and recognition program that you can build into the culture of your business or nonprofit. Talked about the different types of recognition programs you can use and also when you should use them. I also have another video you should be checking out. It is on crowdfunding and how it's going to become a $95 billion industry by 2025. You should jump in on it, get you some of that money, grow your organization. Maybe you're out there and you startup, you want to figure out how to get started, whether you're a nonprofit or business. Crowdfunding is one way to go. Check it out. You'll learn a lot. Thank you for joining me.